Okay, I think I've calmed down enough from my previous video to talk about Tron Ares. But before I properly start the video, I know there's going to be some people who aren't going to agree with this, so I just want to state right now that this is an opinion. Alright? If you think the movie was great, great. If you think that the movie did poorly, like some of people, then there you go. We're all entitled to our own opinions, are we not? Sometimes there's things we don't like, okay? And sometimes Jared Leto touches things and they go bad. At least they didn't say it's Troning time and then Troned all over the movie. 15 years after the previous installment in this sci-fi franchise was released, Tron Ares blessed our theaters or whatever. The film picks up several years after the second Tron movie. I don't know why I did this. I meant to say this. Tron Legacy, after the conclusion of that movie, with a whole new roster of characters, including a skilled computer program named Ares, who's looking for the secret to existing permanently in the real world. And while the movie has very much its own narrative, there are still many connections to the larger Tron franchise that place it firmly within the existing timeline. However, unlike many legacy sequels from recent years, these connections often feel quite tenuous and unnecessary. It's ultimately unclear what this movie is trying to be, and that's just ultimately its fatal flaw. Although Jeff Bridges does show up for a brief cameo towards the end of the movie, this isn't his movie at all. In fact, despite the fact that he's referenced constantly, Kevin Flynn could easily have been written out of the story altogether. This isn't like the previous movie Legacy, which continues to tell his story through the perspective of his son. Ares is a whole new story, a whole new one with whole new characters. Flynn's company has been taken over by Eve Kim, and she's the one responsible for discovering the permanence code and is using it to bring down Julian Dillinger and his corrupt enterprise. But instead of letting this story play out naturally and having the characters resolve their own conflicts, Ares feels like the need to bring back an old character to save the day. This unfortunately represents one of the biggest problems with this movie, and that being it's so bogged down by the weight of the franchise that it never gets to shine on its own merit. Sequels can be firmly integrated into their franchises, even when made years later. One need look no further than with Tron Legacy itself. It's a great example, but they don't have to be, you know? So much of Ares feels like the film wants to separate itself and forge its own identity, but its reliance on the previous movies reduces that impact, and ultimately, in trying to do both, it does neither. The most likely explanation for this narrative dissonance, that's a word, is that the filmmakers felt forced, whether through pressure from the studios or from the fans, to bring the Tron universe back to life at all costs. This clearly meant sacrificing much of the current story to set the stage for the future. And yet, Tron Ares, even the teases from the movie, they don't really feel substantial. Having Julian Dillinger enter the grid and showing that Ares is searching for Quora from Tron Legacy adds nothing to this story. It's just another example of this otherwise fascinating screenplay having to bend to the demands of the franchise. Look, while it is fun to see Jeff Bridges reprise his iconic role, the Tron franchise will never really find its feet if it continues to rely so heavily on nostalgia and unnecessary connections. This truly feels like a great sci-fi movie that's been diluted simply to make it fit more neatly into the existing franchise. And it stings even more because Kevin Flynn's death in the second movie perfectly set the stage for Ares to be a more distant, self-contained sequel that moved away from, Kevin's story and allowed the new characters to carry the torch. Unfortunately, though, the sequel's approach feels very unsure of itself and never quite achieves this. Honestly, they try to disconnect too much. If they hadn't portrayed this movie as a soft reboot, I probably think it would have done better. It was not in any way a reboot, soft or otherwise. They should have embraced it and spend less time, alienating the existing fan base that they couldn't afford to alienate. Because Tron is not Star Wars, alright? It doesn't have a worldwide fan pool to build it off. It's a very niche world with a very dedicated group of people who love it. And it's never really going to become a global level because of what it is. That doesn't mean, though, that it can't be successful, because Legacy proved that it can be successful. But you can't afford to confuse or drive off the fans that exist like Marvel or Star Wars, because it's a much, much smaller pool. All they had to do was confirm that this movie was not a reboot, which in the story references to Sam and Korra confirms, just not including the actors from the previous story and continuing in the world of. Maybe they'll make a fourth movie, and if they do, they could probably bring Ares and Legacy together and culminate the story that this began, but with all these unflattering and very negative articles, even if it ever ends up doing well, it may never get the chance. Apparently, the script for this movie started off as Tron Ascension, a literal sequel to Legacy, with Jared Leto playing a minor villain, Ares, but he kept pushing for more screen time until he became the main character and the title of the movie. So, guess we know who to blame. I don't know. Maybe it's a him thing? Anyways, that was the whole video. I was always supposed to make a video about Tron. When's it gonna come? Look, I honestly don't know, okay? I have a schedule, okay? And I'm trying to upkeep it. December is next month. Oh my god. I'm fine. No, it's all good. I don't see a problem with it. Okay. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I need to start working on the Saved by the Bell video. But the thing is that, I want to kind of get some videos over with before I start focusing on the Saved by the Bell video. So, like, any thumbnail I made for videos, they will get worked on, is what I'm basically saying. So, everything from next video, which is how TikTok killed MTVs, from that video until we get to, Dynasty, like the reboot, then I will start working on Saved by the Bell. Any other video after that I was supposed to make is not going to get made quite yet, because if I focused on making those other videos that I was supposed to make, we'd be here all day. Okay, we need to get things over with, and I know that the Saved by the Bell video is going to be very long. Okay, so hopefully I will start working on that video once I talk about the Dynasty reboot, which will probably go in. No, it won't. It will not go on the Soap Opera September playlist. But the videos I'm making about Will and Sunny from Days of Our Lives will go on the Soap Opera September playlist, because I did it for Luke and Noah, which I miss Luke and Noah. When are we gonna get justice for Luke and Noah? Anyways, I will see you all in the next video where we talking about how TikTok killed MTV, which, I mean, they're not the main reason that MTV's dying, but no, we could maybe blame them just like a wee bit.